is up, everybody? Welcome back to Pitching Ninja's filthiest pitches of the day. Remember, before I get to those pitches, hit that subscribe button. Never miss an episode of the biggest and best daily baseball show on YouTube. And now, without further ado, here are my filthiest pitches of the day. I'm going to start with Logan Gilbert, who had 7 Ks in 6 2/3 innings, giving up only 1 run. His elevated fastball was really effective and got a couple of swords, and also had a few nasty sliders. He was up against Marcus Stroman, who was also really good. Stro had 6 Ks in 6 innings, giving up only 2 runs, thanks to his breaking balls, his cutter, and his sinker. Jose Urquidy got this curveball sword and had a nasty changeup. He had 2 Ks in 6 innings. Nate Eovaldi had 7 Ks and no walks in 5 innings, but did give up 6 runs. He had these dirty splitters. He faced off against Brad Keller, who had 7 Ks in 6 2/3 innings, and had these mean breaking balls. Chris Sale had another ineffective outing. His ERA is now 11.25. He gave up 5 earned runs in only 4 innings. But that doesn't mean he didn't have filthy pitches. He had these wicked sliders, including this Expelliarmus slider. His command was just really inconsistent this game, and his consistency is obviously going to have to improve if he's going to get back to the old Chris Sale dominance.
It seems like at times in the game, I have a handle on it, and then other times, the wheels are, just falling off. So just one of the things, a team like this is going to take advantage of those mistakes, and they're in the position they're in for a reason, and I just flat out got to be better.
He was up against Taj Bradley, who made his major league debut and was excellent with 8 strikeouts in 5 innings. He had these upper 90s fastballs and vicious curveball. I thought Bradley looked really good. Peyton Battenfield had 3 Ks in 4 2/3 innings, giving up only 1 earned run, and had this nasty cutter and sword. Dre Jamison was outstanding with his upper 90s fastball and mean sliders. He had 4 Ks in 4 scoreless innings, and here's an overlay of his 99-mile-an-hour fastball with his slider. And you can see why that combination makes him so tough to hit. Lucas Giolito had 7 Ks in 6 innings, giving up only 1 run and 5 hits. He painted with his fastball and K'd the side with his changeup, his fastball, and slider. And I thought his slider was really good overall. He had a 57% whiff rate on his slider this game. He faced off against Sonny Gray, who had 5 Ks in 5 scoreless innings, making that 2 consecutive really good outings for him. He had these breaking balls and fastballs. Clayton Kershaw wasn't really that sharp. He had 4 Ks in 6 innings, giving up 3 runs, but he had these dirty sliders. He went up against Alex Cobb, who only had 2 Ks, and one of them was kind of a gift. I mean, look at this pitch. That, my friend, isn't a strike. You can see Cobb knew it, but he also tried to sell it. Although Cobb later had this very pretty front door 2-seamer. That's more like it. Jack Flaherty had 6 Ks in 5 1/3 innings, giving up only 1 earned run thanks to his sliders and fastball. Griffin Canning returned to the mound after a stress fracture in his back that kept him out all last year. He had 4 Ks in 5 innings, giving up only 2 runs, and had these sliders. Mackenzie Gore had 6 Ks in 3 2/3 innings thanks to his sliders, fastballs, and curveball. Blake Snell had this curveball for a sword, and then had this pitch comm issue, where you can see he's trying to press a button before the pitch clock expires, and then basically says, F it, I'm going to throw a fastball right down the dick to the polar bear. That's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him. Spoiler alert, it didn't. He was a little better off taking the automatic ball for a pitch clock violation. And then the cameras caught Snell complaining about pitch comm in the dugout, saying this is terrible.
Oh, he hates the pitch comm.
I mean, it may not have been great, but you got to question your strategy as well, Blake. Zack Wheeler was outstanding with 6 Ks in 6 innings, giving up only 1 run. He had his mid to upper 90s fastball, his sliders and sweepers all working. And when he has all those pitches, he's really tough to hit. Here's an overlay of his fastball and a sweeper, and you can see why that tunneling is so effective for him. He battled Edward Cabrera, who had 4 Ks in 5 innings, giving up 2 earned runs. Cabrera, of course, had his high velo changeup and these wicked curveballs, and got a sword. The marquee matchup of the day was Spencer Strider versus Hunter Greene, 2 young flamethrowers. And they didn't disappoint. Well, I mean, they let up a combined 6 runs, but they also had 19 Ks in a combined 11 innings. Spencer Strider had 9 Ks in 5 innings. His command started out but he eventually dialed it in and was unhittable. He had his dominant fastball that was up to 100, and his slider was vicious. Got a White Castle special on his slider, and ended up with a 50% whiff rate on that pitch. He also threw a beautiful changeup, and I love his little K-hop afterwards. Strider now has 27 Ks in 16 innings this year and is tied for the major league lead in strikeouts with his idol, Jacob deGrom. I did a side-by-side of deGrom's and Strider's mechanics, and you can see how similar they are. That's because Strider modeled himself after deGrom, despite the fact that their body types are nothing alike. I mean, look at Strider's lower half. You can see why I nickname him Quadzilla, while deGrom is more like Slender Man. Hunter Greene had 10 Ks in 6 innings. He had an overpowering fastball that was up to 101.7 miles an hour and got 8 whiffs on his fastball. And he had a 50% whiff rate on his slider that was up to 92 miles an hour. I know some fans get impatient by Hunter Greene's inconsistency, but don't forget he's only 23 years old. The man is going to be an ace. My filthiest pitcher of the day yesterday was Kevin Gausman. He was absolutely outstanding. He did give up 3 runs, but he had 11 Ks. He had a 58% whiff rate on his splitter, which was ridiculous. He had 14 whiffs on his splitter alone. I mean, look at the movement on this pitch. It had up to 22 inches of horizontal break with a ton of depth. It's a cartoon-like pitch. I put together some overlays so you can see just how hard this pitch is to hit. It mirrors his fastball, and his mechanics look identical to his fastball when he throws his splitter, but that splitter dives and runs arm side. And here's a ball trail that took individual images of the baseball on the way to the plate, and you can see that splitter movement. And as a bonus for being part of Ninja Nation, here's Kevin Gausman's splitter grip from his interview with me. It's very unique.
It's kind of like Lincecum-esque, same kind of grip almost. Like it's a funky grip. And, a lot of people when I first show it, they're like, it feels like it's gonna jump out of my hand. Like I'm gonna throw it to the backstop. And to be honest, it took me 3-4 years for it not to feel like that for me. But I think one of the things that like for me was a key was having this finger on the other side of this seam. So kind of hard, but like I want to feel all the pressure on this side of my finger. And so that when I throw it, I'm essentially like, it's like catching like this. And so that's how it gets this spin. Almost like the gyro spin, but opposite. Like a gyro slider, but going the other way.
Now onto my filthiest relievers. Jose El Diablo Alvarado had this 100-mile-an-hour fastball and cutter. After his first inning of work where he got 2 Ks, that actually lowered his K per 9 this year from 24.75 to 23.4. That's how ridiculous he's been this year. Yohan Duran didn't have a particularly great appearance, but I did get a laugh out of this as he points to the sky to tell his outfielders that it's a fly ball. Of course, he could have pointed and made a circular motion because this was a home run. A little Hansel Robles-esque point. Evan Phillips had this sweeper. Michael Fulmer had this wicked sweeper. Jason Adam had this nasty breaking ball. James Karinchak had this beautiful curveball. Alex Lang had this hammer and got the sword. Lucas Litke had this ridiculous sweeper that broke 21 inches. AJ Minter had this 96-mile-an-hour gas. Ron Marinaccio had this 84-mile-an-hour pretty changeup. David Robertson had this knuckle curve. Emmanuel Clase painted with this slider at the knees. And lastly, Gregory Soto had these wicked sliders. And now, my Pitching Ninja moment of zen. You might know that Aaron Boone got ejected yesterday for arguing with the umpires and dropping a bunch of F-bombs, but I love this ISO of Josh Naylor's face as Aaron Boone is arguing. He's like, And lastly, while watching a Rays game, I came to the conclusion that Pete Fairbanks always looks like he's in a horror movie and getting frightening news on his glove phone. And now you're never going to be able to unsee that. What is up, Ninja Nation? My picks of the day today are three-leg parlay. I'm going to go with Chris Bassett for 6Ks or more. Then I'm going to take Jeffrey Springs for 6Ks or more. And top it off with Nick Lodolo for 8Ks or more. What would your picks of the day be?